What's up, guys? BuffaloPrime here, and I'm going to bring you a reaction to patch 10.16. For those of you that don't know who I am a support main, so we're going to be kind of looking at this patch through the lens of a support main. And yeah, I guess we're just going to kind of dive in and see what this patch is all about. It just came out today, I believe, in the live server, so we'll go through it pretty much line by line, kind of give some reaction to it and some thoughts on it. I'm pretty low elo, so it's not like my thoughts mean a whole lot, but maybe you'll share some of the thoughts. And feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below what your thoughts are, but let's go through it. All right, so this is a long one. Is this the mid-season? I think this is the mid-split patch, so it's going to be a big one. We've got a big list of small tweaks to bring more razzle-dazzle as we gear up for Worlds. We think the meta's at a good place, so we're carefully mixing things up without throwing caution to the wind, although Yasuo's down there somewhere. This means that we're bringing up the Zeus from Mark's folk, Misfortune, Lucian, Tristana, to Jungle folks, Evelyn, Hecarim, and Skarner, which also means that we are unzoozing those who have been omnipresent picks, Karma, Syndra, Volibear, to open up their counter picks and to give their enemies more chances to retaliate. We are also tidying up some champions by giving them more cohesive identities and sharpening their strengths, while giving others more clarity in their kits. Finally, on some housekeeping notes, the dev team is taking some AFK time in the near future. For League, this means 10.16 will last twice as long as the normal patch, and we'll be skipping patch 10.17. We're planning to ship a set of balance changes around the time 10.7 would have launched, though, so keep an eye out for those details. The next full patch will be 10.18. So zoom your way down, and once you're well read, you'll be well ready to take on the third rank split of the season, the world, etc., etc. All right, cool. So this is kind of a good time to react to this then, since we won't have another patch for a little while. So here we go. Let's dive right in. We're not going to worry about the highlights because we're going to go through it anyway. On August 9th, 11:59, the third and final ranked split of the season will begin. But with a little something extra this time, in addition to the usual split rewards, we'll also be granting a random Series 1 Eternal Capture to anyone earning 750 split points. Okay, that's cool. All right, Yone is coming out. Yone wields his sword in 10.16. So I've seen a little bit of Yone's kit. It's very similar to Yasuo's kit. Looks like he's finally out. We're going to probably see that a bunch, especially if Yasuo's picked. I can imagine the other mid laner will pick Yone. I don't think... A lot of people are memeing that we're going to see like Yasuo Yone bot lanes. I don't think that's going to be very present because it just doesn't really make much sense other than to meme. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of Yone Yasuo bot lanes, especially not in ranked. But maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. All right, first buff we're going to take a look at is Akali. Akali. Now that Akali's been in the shadows of Pro, we can help her kit the Assassin's Mark for all levels of play by bringing up her early game damage. We're also streamlining the damage type in her kit so that she's able to itemize more effectively and deal more to enemies who aren't building defensively. Wow, okay. I don't know who thought Akali's kit didn't have enough damage to it, but here we go. All right, her Q's base damage is increasing by 5 at every level, it looks like. And her Shuriken Flip, the E, is magic damage. I don't think her Shuriken Flip does that much damage in general, though. But now that's moved to only magic damage. I think AP Akali is probably going to be the standard way to go. Interesting. I don't think her damage was a problem, and I think this is pretty minor of a change. But I still think you're going to want to build Gunblade. I think Gunblade's such a good item on her. So I don't think this change does a whole lot, actually. All right, Ashe. This is good to know. We're pulling back on scaling Ashe buff that we gave her in 10.8 to make more space for other marksmen with less early game power and utility to shine late game against her. So her Q's Ranger Focus, attack speed got nerfed in later levels. That's good to know. It's good to know, especially as a support player. Ashe early is not usually the problem. It is the mid to late game, which it looks like a lot of those buffs come in. Actually, mid to late game, too. So, all right. She's not as powerful as a pick as she once was. I don't know if this will bring her out of the meta, though, but I do like that. All right, Bard. I actually play a good amount of Bards. Let's see. Bard has been chiming in quite a bit, especially in pro play, so we're toning down his power in the early game to open up more avenues for counter picks and in-lane pressure. So his base health is going down, and his W heals kind of a good amount less, especially early. So your maximum heal early from 70 down to 55. So that kind of makes it less advantageous to take W first to like help your mid laner. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but some bards will take W first and set up 3 spires in the mid lane to help their mid laner heal. That becomes a little less effective. I don't know if that's optimal anymore. I guess unless you're duoing with your mid laner at that point, maybe it still is. But interesting that they would do that. Okay, so Bard's healing is a little bit worse for Wear. I don't think that brings him out of the meta too much, but it does hurt him a good amount. I don't know. Opens up more avenues for counter picks. I don't know if that's true. There's a lot of supports that heal better than Bard does. Bard's healing is not why you pick Bard. All right, Evelynn. Spiking some power into Evelyn's Q so that she can bring her charm into the jungle and in early skirmishes. We also found that her Q cooldown refund from monsters has been a source of confusion and annoyance for players. So we're taking that out for more gameplay clarity. Okay, so early skirmishes, I mean, if you're an Evelynn player, you basically don't fight until level 6. So I guess this is more of like if you get invaded, you have a little bit more sustain. But her Q cooldown goes down to 4 seconds. Wow, her jungle clear is going to be nuts. Hitting a monster no longer refunds 50% of the cooldown. Okay, because they're automatically giving it to you now. Jeez, that's actually a huge buff. Evelyn's clear in the jungle is probably going to be a lot better now. Getting her to level 6 faster, by the way. Fiora. As we near the big games, we have identified a lack of scaling skirmishers who can keep pressure in the side lane. Because of this, we want to keep Fiora in tip-top form and to be able to offer teams more strategy. We're helping her strike quickly, strike deftly in early fights, along with increasing her mobility for split pushing. To balance it out, we're also lightly taping down her cooldown refund. Okay, so Q, lunge. Cooldown is better, so she can Q more often. Her lunge, you're making that more available. Enemy hit cooldown reduction. A little bit less refund. So, I mean, I think that's a really good buff, right? Like, this is definitely a buff because her Q is just more available to her. Even if she gets a less of a cooldown reduction, the enemy hit refunds a little bit worse. I mean, her general cooldown's better, though. So, okay. Hecarim. The horseman's been at a trot, so we're ponying up by boosting his potential for ganks and engage. Note that this added movement speed procs his passive for that sweet, sweet bonus damage. His devastating charge is E. That's one that I actually, when I play jungle, I only play a couple of champions. Hecarim, Warwick, sometimes Vi, but those are mostly the only 2 I play. So bonus movement speed goes up, up to 100%. For the first 3 seconds with the 4th second at maximum value. Ooh, okay. So his movement speed's a little bit better on his E. So movement speed Hecarims are going to enjoy that a lot. His E is a good engage tool, so having up to 100% bonus movement speed is pretty nuts. Jax. Now it's Jax's turn. Similar to Fiora, we're hoping to bring the Grandmaster back onto the scene by making him more viable counterpick with more counter strikes. With his E more readily available, oh my god, this is going to be so bad in low elo. He'll be able to see fights through in a different manner. While his E cooldown is better in early scenarios. His late game did not change much. Okay, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me as a support player. Because Jax really just sits in the side lane early. I mean, Jaxes that get fed enough to team fight are scary as hell. But it looks like his E cooldown in the late game doesn't seem to change much. So that's usually where you see Jax Fear support. Unless you're roaming up to kill. But, okay. Jhin. Here we go. ADC. Jhin hasn't been able to call those shots, especially around towers. We're loosening his passive crit damage restriction from all the way back in 6.4 so that he can take down structures more effectively and keep up with the peers with expanded abilities for damaging towers. His passive, final shot to structures, does more, and now the same damage as a normal crit strike. Okay. So a little bit more on his passive. Okay, that's not a big buff. Jhin's, unless you have a good Jhin player, Jhin's not a very great ADC. I mean, you have to be really good at Jhin to be good at him. All right, another Jinx. Okay. Fixed a bug in Jinx's R where the damage cap against monsters was capped against champions instead, majorly impacting her power against enemies with high health. We're bringing that super, the mega, and the death by uncapping the damage against all targets. Bonus damage cap, 350, 375. No. There's no bonus cap damage for her R now, so it's going to do more damage overall. Okay. That's pretty nice. Jinx's R is pretty devastating, but yeah. Ooh, okay, Karma. I'm not a Karma player, so I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about Karma's. Karma has continued to be a strong multi-role flex champion who tends to have too much control and safety, so we're trimming down her solo lane agency by pulling back on a spell that she relies on for wave clear. So her Inner Flame is now a flat 65 mana cost, which hurts her early game but helps her late game. And her cooldown gets buffed or nerfed everywhere. Okay, that's actually really nice. Because her Q, even as a support, like they're talking about her as a solo laner, but Karma as a support, her Q is so annoying to deal with. So even a little bit more of a cooldown is helpful in early game engages. So that allows supports to bait her Q and then engage a little bit better. So that's nice. I like that. I think Karma's really annoying part of her kit is her speed up, though. That'd be nice if there was something to be done about that. It makes Karma really safe. Like, that's what makes her safe. Her Q, not as much. Her speed up makes her really hard to lock down. All right, Karthus. Now we're seeing an increase in Karthus players and higher win rates. We're walking back some of the bigger buffs from 10.14 that's lent him much more strength than anticipated. Okay, so his Q got scaled back slightly. That's a pretty insignificant change. Kha'Zix, the bug consumed and the bug adapted. Over the course of the past few patches and our latest buff, Kha'Zix has crept above the pack for our skilled players, so we're pulling slightly back on the same lever in 10.14 to find a happy middle ground. Okay, so it's isolated target bonus damage. That's what made Kha'Zix so good, was the isolated target bonus damage. I mean, that's still a lot, 110%. So really, if Kha'Zix catches you out, especially as a support player, if Kha'Zix ever catches you out, you just die. So Kha'Zix on the other team means I got to play closer to my vision, which you should be doing anyway, but I also have to play closer to my team. So I think Kha'Zix buff there, I mean, even reverting back 10% of that is not, he's still going to be really scary for any squishy champions that walk around the map. Okay, Lucian, cool. I like Lucians a lot. As a support, I like playing Braum. Braum's probably one of my top 5 supports that I enjoy playing. And Lucian is one of my favorite ADCs to pick Braum with because he procs your passive really well. He can engage with you with his dashes, and he has a little bit of self-peel, which actually is really nice for Braum to be able to jump to him after he dashes, put the shield up. He can dash behind the shield. There's a lot of utility that goes with the Lucian Braum bot lane, which I really like. So, interested to see this for sure. Lucian has been out of the meta for a while, losing consistently to his more meta peers with longer ranges. True, even in the beginning phases of the game, which is not where he's supposed to lose. We're putting him back on the path of vengeance by increasing his power. His Q doing, 10 more damage early on. Looks like 10 damage across the board. Wait a second. Whoa. Okay, hold on. Going 85 to 120 to 155 to 190, I think that says. So, yeah, they're buffing it 10 across the board. And then his R, total shots fired, goes up. Dang. By 2, 3, and 4, respectively. That's actually really big. His R is more powerful and does more shots. Crazy. That's actually really cool. I like that buff a lot. So I don't know if that brings Lucian into the meta, but it makes him stronger, which I really like. That's really cool. I think his buff so far is the most impressive. Misfortune. Pirate Lady's been in a misfortunate place, and she's no fool, so we're giving her a small love tap to make sure she's relevant as an early game marksman. A little bit more AD. Okay. Ooh, Morgana buff. Okay, bane of my existence is Morgana. I used to play a lot of mage supports, which is a good Morgana counter. Just play mage. But I've been kind of pulling back from that. So seeing Morgana get stronger, she literally makes supporting not fun when you go up against a good Morgana. Bot lane has been awash with dive-heavy supports with strong CC, so we're helping Morgana unshackle her potential as a promising counterpick. She literally counterpicks all forms of supports except for mages, pretty much. Like far-poking mages, pretty much the only thing you can play in a Morgana. So her cooldown goes down by a second. That's not that big, but it's annoying. Nautilus! No, Nautilus nerf. Damn. Nautilus is one of my 3 pick champs. Like if I have to go into ranked, I'm picking usually Senna. I'll pick Nautilus and maybe Brand. Or I'll throw Nami in there, you know. So Nautilus has always been a heavy rotation support for me. Naut has been anchored as a persistent menace in the pro bot lane, so we're lowering his resilience to harass and the reliability of his early game all ends. His shield got whoa! From 60 down to 45? 70 to 50. Whoa, that's a huge nerf. Dang. Like 15 across the board nerf to his W. Which, yeah, I always try to take W second, especially if I look to engage. So you get hook level 1, your level 2 power spikes that W, especially against a dual AD bot lane. So that was really good against Cenopix. So you could go in, pop the shield, you're barely taking any damage. So that nerf hurts his ability to go all in, and it hurts his ability as a tank. So, wow, that sucks. Okay. Giving Nico some love for her training and wave clear against other prominent mids. We think this will help her come into her own, for her to really be herself and no one else. Okay, so her Q's damage is going up by 10. Her Bloom damage going up by 5 across the board. Okay, that's actually pretty nice. I mean, a fed Nico is a problem, but I think it's the neutral Nico. So if you're head-to-head with somebody, I think a lot of mid laners beat Nico in the 1v1, especially if they're equal. So I think this will help her a lot, especially if you land your binding, which is, I think, her E. So you throw your E, it hits. You throw your Q on top of it. Like that's gonna be a nice buff for her. Nocturne is chopping down mid laners at an alarming rate in average play, trimming his pushing and sustained power while letting him be a similar power level in the jungle. His passive cooldown is now increased, and instead of basic attacks against enemy champions and monsters, reduces the Umbral Blade cooldown. Basic attacks against enemy champion and monsters reduces it by 3 seconds. So that's actually a bit of the buff on the refund, but a nerf on the cooldown. So you really need to do a lot more basic attacks. Probably easier against monsters than it will be champions too. I don't think that actually changes him out of the mid lane, but we'll see. Rakan! So I was a Rakan one trick when I first started learning support. I love Rakan, dude. But I stopped playing him because he's just not good in solo queue, right? So Rakan has very quick engages. Like it completely locks down the other team, but it doesn't last very long. So really you engage and you get out and you pray that your solo queue teammates saw that you went in or know that you were going in or you pinged properly and follow up. But he's really good in a duo bot lane or when you're playing with your friends. So Rakan may have the moves, but he still needs to get a move on. We're amping up the tempo so that he can beat down enemies as one of the premier engaged support champions. They're buffing 25% on his R. That's massive, by the way. The amount of times that I've pressed R and not been able to catch up to other people because the increased movement speed wasn't enough is pretty high. So I have clips of my Rakan gameplay where I ult and I get 2 and I'm chasing down the other one for the duration of my ult to barely get him or barely miss. So that's a really nice buff for him. That's a good one. Set. Reeling back set players who rely on his base values with very tanky builds to plow their way through games. So his W base damage, the Haymaker, is getting nerfed for the late game pretty significantly. It goes down by 5, 10, and then 15, and then 20. Okay. And then his Facebreaker base damage also getting nerfed into the late game. Okay, so his scaling is a little worse now. That's pretty nice, I would say, especially since set support is pretty predominant right now. I think these nerfs actually hurt him in the support role pretty hard. So that's actually really nice. I'm not a big fan of set support. Skarner. Even with our last rounds of buff in 10.15, Skarner still feels like he's in hibernation with his skin. We're doing another pass to put a bit more sting in his stinger. His Q damage ratio plus 0.05 is cost down 5 mana. That's actually really good. So he's able to Q more. I don't know if that brings him into the meta. I just don't think Skarner's kit's very good in the current meta, but teach their own, I guess. Syndra. We're counting to sharpen Syndra's power as she remains dominant pick in pro play. This time we're honing in on her oppressive command and lane, especially from the early to mid game. Her Q's base damage is nerfed as it scales. Okay. That's whatever. Tristana. I've heard this buff is really good. Tristana has been fairly irrelevant since the nerfs to her early game attack range, especially from her in the mid lane, where she is still able to bully out certain champs. We're gunning for her to be a viable marksman by buffering her bot lane crit build. Here comes the boom. Explosive charges now deal 1% increased damage per 3% crit strike chance. Up to 30. What the? That's actually huge. So if you build crit Tristana, which is her standard ADC build, you can get up to 33% increased damage on her E. So with Tristana coming into the meta, that actually is a champ that helps Rakan a lot. I love playing Rakan into Zaya's, obviously. Ezreal's and Tristana's. Anybody that has some mobility to their kit, Rakan is really fun on. So Tristana being in the meta makes Rakan really nice. So I like that. I like that a lot. Cool. Vigar, boosting up the tiny Yordle to better master the mid lane. To do this, we give him a bit more MR since he's already quite powerful in the bot lane. His magic resist barely goes up. Okay. Volibear is a rare beast that is relentlessly bringing the storm for our average and pro players, reducing his mobility and scaling into the late game. Oh, wow, his movement speed getting nerfed. That's actually pretty big. I didn't think his movement speed was a big problem. His sustain is actually pretty nutty. Like, the shield he gets on his AoE ability, like, that's what I always thought Volibear's strength came from. His ability to chase down people is nice, but, like, you can play certain champs. Like, I play Senna a lot. You can pretty much stop Volibear in his tracks, depending on what support you play. So, interesting. I think that nerf is going to help counterplay, but I don't know if that's the nerf that he needs. Yasuo. Oh, God. Okay, so you may not know this. When I first started playing League of Legends and I first started learning it, I was an Ahri mid laner, and Yasuo was the bane of my existence. I actually learned Renekton mid just to deal with Yasuos. Carefully buffing Yasuos to target mid lane and pro play like Vigar, we're giving him breathing room in mid, where there's the most magic damage dealers. We're also boosting his ult output for coordinated teams to play off of. So his magic resist goes up by 2. His R damage goes up by a lot. Jeez. Okay, so that makes him more annoying for sure. That's unfortunate. That R damage output is actually kind of crazy. Like 200 to 200, obviously no change there. 300 to 350, 400 to 500 base damage under his R. I always felt like his R was like, that's not the part of the kit for Yasuo that was really oppressive. Like his R never did that much damage. So I guess I get the buff there. Yasuo's mobility and his wind wall is what makes him the worst. And nobody likes him. So, all right, Ziggs bumping up this bombing bud to better bonk down buildings and, more importantly, to bring an artillery mage into the meta. So his passive damage ratio is now set at the highest levels. And his bonus damage multiplier to structures is up a little bit more too. Wow, okay. So the thing with Ziggs, though, is that it's not... I don't think his damage to structures is a problem. It's his ability to get lane prio to actually hit the structures. So I started learning Ziggs as a mid laner, and like low elo, like getting prio on Ziggs I think is pretty challenging, especially with their Syndras running around, Orianna's running around, Ahri's, like these long range AP mid laners make Ziggs pretty hard to play. So I don't think that helps in that regard, but if you do get prio, he's going to be really good. All right, let's take a look at some of the rune buffs here. So Nimbus Cloak has become the go-to for both jungle and AD as it consists offensive defensive tools. We're lowering some of its overall strength, and specifically in consideration of Smite and Hex Flash, so it's not as ambiguous of a choice. I don't know if I said that right. So movement speed got nerfed a little bit. Okay. All right. Ionian Clash has now begun. Okay, so the new Clash is out here. Nexus Blitz balance changes. You can feel free to read this if you want. I'm not too big on this. But yeah. DX11. We're kicking off an opt-in beta test of DX11 support. Okay. Bug fixes and quality of life. And then upcoming skins and chromas. I haven't seen these yet. So Spirit Blossom Riven's coming out. Spirit Blossom Cassiopeia, Kindred, Ahri, and Yone. So I'm guessing the Yone story is probably out on the server now too. Very cool. I thought all these skin lines are really cool. So that's awesome. All right, cool. Well, let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below of this recent patch. Hopefully I provided some bare insights in terms of a low elo support player, but I thought maybe it would be interesting. And if you guys like what you see, make sure to follow. I post a lot of stuff on my YouTube, including K-pop stuff because I love K-pop, but also some of my gameplays, which I'm trying to climb as support, trying to learn every day. So hopefully you guys enjoy. I'm BuffaloPrime, and I'm out.